Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Yeah.
morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So if you're somewhere where you can, let's pop your camera on. I want to make this a very interactive session. And let me just see, do we have any lenders on board yet? Dawn Eccles, you're on? Are you on camera, Dawn?
Yes.
All right, wave to everybody. Welcome to the family.
Hello, how are you? Thank you.
So Dawn, this is the team of people that are going to support the lift in your career. All right, we're all on your team.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks for trusting us with helping you build your business. Welcome to the Remax Excalibur Select Group family. Look at that. Wilson's as excited as you are.
We
So-
got a
so-
good one.
Yeah. So today's question, and I want to have a couple of volunteers, is if in the next 12 months nothing changes, are you okay? And I want to find some people who are not okay with that, and I want to kind of have a little bit of a dialogue with you. So engagement is critical to today. So who's not happy if everything's the same in 12 months? Mr. Golden? All right. And Vicky. So Bobby, we'll start with you. If everything's the same in the next 12 months, why is that not acceptable?
Going to be a very disappointing year. I'm a little bit behind on my numbers. Part of it was I had that surgery on my hand, but it affected some other things. Not overall, but truthfully, I kind of lost my mojo a little bit. So I'm behind the eight ball right now.
Okay. And when you have a tough transaction that's kind of going sideways, are you more motivated by that commission check, or are you motivated by not disappointing your client?
I'm more motivated by supporting the client and getting the deal done to their satisfaction.
Right. So you like some agents calculate the commission check and see it in their account, and sometimes I think those are challenging motivations. And how many people do you want to help this year, including team members and clients?
I would say between 50 and 60
That's combined, or that's
combined.
and how many are transactions from clients?
Probably 40 to 50.
Okay, and do you know what you need to do to get 50 closed transactions?
Yes.
And what is that in? I'm asking you for not for your benefit, but for the benefit of everybody here. And for those of you who don't know, Bobby Golden's a partner in the office in Avenel. He's a co-branch manager and oftentimes the top agent in Woodbridge Township. So what do you need to do 50 transactions?
Well, I gotta pick up the slack because I had a good January closing month, not so much in February. March is going to be okay. But although I've picked up some listings, my buyer opportunities are minimal in March. So, I mean, to give you a number, I probably have to do a minimum of 4 deals a month moving forward, and if not more.
And going deeper, what does it take to do 4 deals a month if it's not luck? Because the phone, even somebody with your positioning in the market, I assume that business doesn't all find you, does it?
No, and that's the one change that I'm making. Again, my month of February was very quiet for different reasons. But now I'm back out doing open houses. I'm back out knocking on doors. I'm making phone calls again. So I'm just trying to re-energize my business.
And Bobby, why do you do open houses?
Why do I do it?
Yeah.
Well, it used to be to service the seller, but now I'm trying to focus on the people that come to the last couple open houses I did, anywhere from 90 to 100% of the people came in and said they had an agent. And although I would talk to them and try to dig a little bit, it just became clear that, and they showed business cards and that sort of thing. But the last open house I did, 3 people came in without an agent, and I'm working pretty hard to keep them as the client and help them out.
All right, so let me go a little bit deeper with this, Bobby. So with three people that come in without an agent, it's probably a pretty predictable number if you have a well-positioned property on the market. If you have three people that come in without an agent and you compare that to a phone call from Zillow, which would you rather have? Somebody you've never met coming through Zillow, or would you rather have somebody that you met at an open house?
At the open house. So the three people that I'm just describing, two of them I followed up with immediately, put them on an automatic notification, made sure that they got the emails. They're very happy, and I plan on showing them homes this upcoming week.
Okay, so what were they in Woodbridge Township somewhere?
One is from Staten Island, one is from Woodbridge Township.
Right, but the open house was Woodbridge Township, right?
Correct.
Okay, so probably to buy a connection on Zillow in Woodbridge would probably cost about $450. Okay, so now you've got three connections that are at a higher level because let's face it, you met them, right? And if they like you or
Correct.
they don't like you, they now know who you are, right?
Correct.
So there's a massive benefit to that, which I don't think people process and value in how to consistently come up with numbers and help more people. And when you do an open house, if you were to grade yourself on what it could be as a 10 or 11 and how you do an open house, what would you grade yourself on doing an open house?
I mean, compared to what other people do, I'm probably a 7 or an 8.
And what could
But-
be better? What could be better?
Well, I mean, what could be different is not really my personality. I'm not the put out cookies guy. I'm not the foo-foo-y guy. I put out as much information as I can. I try to be as friendly as I can, engaging as I can, but I'm just not, I put it out on social media. I do my marketing like I do my flyers. I try to put as much of an effort that I could put out there, but
How many signs you put out? Direct
minimum of 6.
minimum of 6. Okay. And do you ever walk the minimum 5, 5, and 10 to let people know that you're doing the open house, or
I did that. So the open house was on Sunday. I was out there with my sister Judy on Tuesday.
okay? Because and then if you go to now, if you have 10 people in an open house with or without an agent, how many people is that house you think ideal for? Just spitballing it.
Maybe 2.
I'd say 1 or 2, right?
Right.
So now when somebody comes in and you present the house that you're marketing to them and it's not ideal for them, maybe it needs a bigger backyard, an extra bedroom, a different configuration. Are you prepared to offer them other homes that are on the market?
Yes.
And you give that to them when you meet with them, or no?
It depends on the situation. I may not, if they're reluctant to engage with me, I'm not going to hand it to them on a silver platter. But if I have a name and an email address, phone number, I would be more than happy to let them know about what I know, and then I follow up with them from there.
What time do you typically do your open houses?
From 12 to 3.
And do you ever make an appointment for 3:30 at a competing property that's vacant and offer people to come see you there?
Say that again. I don't follow you.
Okay. Do you ever make an appointment for a competing property that's vacant to say, hey, if this one doesn't work, would you like to meet me over at this property at 3:30?
If I felt that strongly about it, I would definitely do that. But I haven't. I'm not going to lie. I just didn't have the opportunity.
So I'm just about putting ideas out there, Bobby, because I care, and I'm saying, like, if you really wanted to up that experience, right, you could tell people, hey, you know what, I have an appointment set up for some other clients that came to the open house at 3:30. If you want to meet me at this property, it's a half mile away. Can I count on you to be there at 3:30? Like, that's an experience I've never seen when I go soliciting agents in open houses. I've not seen anybody that intentional about the way they run it, right? And the statistics, according to the experts from NAR and other industry experts, are 0.1. So it's 1 out of 10 okay, all the way to, 0.1, which would be 1 out of 10, is a buyer up to 2 transactions from an open house. So you could have 1 transaction from 10 open houses from slackers or unintentional people to the best in the business who run intentional open houses, doing, the door knocking, doing a massive amount of signs, doing one of the most important things is to call people within 2 hours of the open house that were there. And do you call them the same day, Bobby, or no? You're somehow you got muted.
Sorry, Rob. I was very guilty of what you just said, because from the open house, sometimes, truthfully, I had family stuff, I had other stuff going on afterwards, so I might call them on Monday or Tuesday. But that definitely has an impact on it. When I call them more immediately, it's a much better outcome.
Yeah, I don't know what the magnitude of additional conversion is, but 2 hours in the same day, yes, is the magic number according to the people who manage the statistics. And I've done it. I don't know if Mehdi and Patrick are you guys on? Mehdi or Patrick from St. Louis? Because Patrick, we called the people after the open houses, right? And many of them answered, right?
Yeah, almost all of them.
And we had good engagement. It wasn't like they were annoyed, correct?
Yeah.
And that's just that, and hopefully, Patrick, you now found a new way to help the agents in St. Louis do more business by partnering with them and being a valued partner in the entire process, right?
Yeah.
And my goal with Mehdi and Patrick was to have them assist in open houses and have them take that list and try to do some of the lifting for the agents that spent their Sunday doing those open houses and get them better conversions for the time that they've already invested, right? And thank you, Patrick, for sharing that. And Bobby, one of the other things that I hate to mention to you, though, is that people emulate and they model what you do. So it's not just your business; it's your example, right?
Okay.
So when you do you know how many people are doing an open house in your office each weekend, or?
Generally, I do, yes.
So maybe one of the things that we can do, and this is for all of our leaders, is, let's do a follow-up on Monday, see how they did with their open house, because we care, and share ideas. What was how many people did you get? Try to test those things out, see what the market is. But if you want to do more business, okay, know your numbers, because, business is math. And change the process, right? Because I've been to open houses where, agents are annoyed, they're disinterested, they give me the impression that they don't really care and that they're just doing it for the seller. Maybe you've heard agents that are like that, or maybe you've gone to an open house with one of your clients and you're like, ooh, that's really very disappointing, right? How they behave in that.
Some of the open houses that I've been to, I walk out of there shaking my head. Just there's a folding chair and a person sitting there, no information on the property, no engagement, no nothing.
So if you can have a transaction 1 out of every 10 open houses, or you can have 2 out of every open house, this is not a rhetorical question. Which would you prefer, Bobby?
I would rather do in the open house and getting two
transactions from it. And I think it's not random, and it's not the client, it's the process, right? It's what we do in that process that determines where we are there. And if you got half a transaction from every single open house, your average sale is what, Bobby?
I would say $500,000 right now.
500,000. So if you got 1 extra transaction every 2 open houses, that would mean $7,500 a day, right? For doing the open house. Maybe that's how winners think, is like, you have to look at what the process is and say, if I do 2 open houses every month, I'm going to get 1 additional transaction that adds $7,500 to my business, and it gives you more people that you can help, right? Maybe you get 1 client each one, and 1 out of those 2 convert. And I'm always thinking, what can we do to be unique and different, And when you're in your role, you can share that with everybody in your office, your tribe there, and then they can do things a little bit differently. So that's just one simple example of how, I'm not okay with things being exactly the same next year, because they're never going to be the same. Things are changing with or without us. But, if we want to make a positive impact, it needs to be done with intent and change things around a little bit. I know, Vicky, you had volunteered to say why next year the same wouldn't be acceptable.
Well, we have an open house every weekend. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yep.
Okay. But the buyers, the people coming, we had 50 people come in last Sunday because we're in a real controlled neighborhood. So they always come, and some of them don't know they're ready to buy a house, and they're either looking for something bigger or smaller in the same neighborhood. But we can't we can say, well, we can help you in the future, but we can't say, well, let me go show you another house that's not our listing, because we can't do the unrepresented buyer anymore. I'd have to say, you have to sign this form. They're not going to do that.
There's a form for unrepresented buyers,
Huh?
but there's a form that just came out this year for Texas, but you still have to get them to sign it. But then
I know I have to get them to sign it. I'll show you another house, but you got to sign this.
So Vicky,
Yeah.
clearly not everybody's going to sign a form, right?
No.
But if you pull somebody aside and you say, hey, you know what, let me just ask you a few questions, you build a little bit of rapport. It's the same skill that you use in different circumstances that we're just uncomfortable doing in that circumstance of an open house, right? Because when you say, and this is coming from contribution, not criticism, when you say they're not going to sign that form, if you have any doubt in your mind they're not going to sign it, nobody's going to sign it. Does that make sense? And
Well, they're not truthful with you. They might even have another agent. They don't want to give you that much information.
Well, I can tell you that there's some, right? There's whether it's 2% or 22% that are going to be in that category. There's a percentage,
Right.
but there are people there that are just they're afraid. They don't give you the honest information because they're afraid. They don't have a positive image on what our industry provides. Okay. And it's beholden upon us to have that conversation. Like, how many times have you gone on a listing appointment where somebody's like, hey, we're interviewing 3 people, right? You build rapport, you connect, and by the time you leave, it's an obvious choice that they're going to be working with us, right? Has that happened to you?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, Vicky, have a very logical belief that, hey, before I hire somebody to sell my house and spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on a fee, I want to interview 2 or 3 people. It's very logical.
Yeah.
And I've been there where people say that they want to do that, and you go in there, and because your expectation and your comfort zone is to build rapport, you 9 out of 10 times leave with the listing agreement signed. Is that true or true?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I'm going to say, Vicky, your mind saying that I don't think they're going to sign that because they just met me at an open house is probably true on 2 to 22%, but not true on 100%, right? Okay. And if you break the pattern, which an open house normally is, where the sellers are like this, they're a little bit defensive, they're holding information close, and you say, hey, how can I help you? Like, you're not commission breathing them on trying to sell them that house. You ask them some questions. You offer, hey, would it be helpful if I sent you some information on 2 or 3 other competing listings? And to do that, you got to prepare yourself for what else would be available for people who reject the one that you're in, right?
Right.
And if you told me that nobody's going to give it to you, I would call bullshit, because some people will give it to you, right? But even if you're the best, not everybody's going to give it to you. You have to figure out where that is. And that's a way to help more people, you know. And I don't want this to be a session about open houses, because one of the things that I really think is, if we look at the people that we know and trust, I mean, I bet you everybody here has had a child or a parent, or maybe even somebody that you worked with in the past that did a transaction without us. Is there anybody that hasn't had that happen to them, where somebody that you find out later that, you know, they bought an investment property, they sold their house without you? And I'm going to look at you, Bobby, because yours is a very concentrated market. You know Woodbridge, right? You probably look at the hot sheet and you're like, damn, I sold them that house 11 years ago. Why did they not call me? Has that happened to you, Mr. Bobby Golden?
Yes, more than I'd like to admit.
Yeah.
And isn't that one of the worst feelings that you can have in this business?
Yes.
I've talked about this before on other masterminds. I keep what I call a page of pain, and every deal that happens over the course of the year, I keep track of it. And at the end of the year, I calculate it, and I see how much money that I potentially lost. Sometimes I think I should get a listing, maybe not, but if I think I should have at least gotten the interview or showed that house, whatever, I calculate that money at the end of the year, and it is a gut punch like no other.
And I know most of us on this call, and it's not only is it a financial gut punch, but it's like an emotional slap, right? It's like, why would they not call me, right? And we try to think, what did I do wrong? And I think a lot of the times it's that we just got out of rapport with them. We stopped, communicating and checking in with them. And level deeper, Bobby, why do they do that? Sometimes we feel like when we're calling people that we're bothering them, right? If you look at the team members in your office, why do people in their database ever transact without them? It's because we've abandoned them, and we abandon them because we don't call them consistently, because maybe we don't feel like we know what to say.
And that's exactly right. That whole list of properties that I should have gotten, those deals that I should have closed, I look at them, and the vast majority of them, I look at it and say, I didn't follow up with these people enough. So I gave them an opportunity to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and everywhere I go, it's more metaphorically like, doing door knocking, because that's kind of one of the coldest forms of contact, right? Like, you're invading somebody's space, knocking on their door, right? And they're like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that in Florida. People are carrying guns. You can't do that here. People are not nice. But everywhere you go, people give back what you put out, right? Okay, they can be a sourpuss, but when you meet them with a attitude of gratitude and, hey, what can I do to help you? Do you know anyone I can help? The conversation changes dramatically. And if my business is not acceptable exactly the same as it is today, or even worse, and I'm not doing something about it that's intentional, you should lose the right to complain about it, because it's all on us, right? It's all on us. It's the things that we do or don't do that drive where we are. Being the statistical nerd that I am, between 4 and 6% of your database is going to list a property in the next 12 months or control a listing. 4 to 6% of your database is going to list a property or control a listing in the next 12 months. Now, anybody want to tell me how many people are in your database? And I hope some of you know. How many in your database, Bobby?
I have, because I had a list of contacts of 5,600, but I shaved that down to people that I consider my database, the people that are going to generate income. So I have that down to 1,400.
So 1,400. This is the scaled down version. 1,400 times 0.04. That's 56 listings from that shaved down database. On the conservative side at the 4%, and it would be 84 listings at the 6% level. How many listings do have you historically gotten from your database in a year? Do you know approximately?
My business is primarily my database. I would say my business is 85%
And how many listings do you do in a typical year?
somewhere between 30 and 35.
So best case scenario, you're getting, if all of them came from your database, that you're getting 50% of the business from your database. That's in the best case scenario. That's assuming that nothing comes out of your database, right? And only 4% of your database lists a property. That means that you have 100% opportunity to improve at the most conservative level. And at a more realistic level, it's probably 200 to 250% of the business in your database is going elsewhere.
Okay. I never looked at it that way, but I'm not going to argue.
I mean, you have people in your database that inherit a property from a relative, right? You have people that control listings from, other opportunities. And with 1,400 people in your database, that's a lot of business that is being transacted, some without us. And I'm going to switch to Vicky. Do you know how many are in your database?
Yes, I had a lot and I got rid of them. I'm down to 425.
425 and
420.
420.
Yeah, 425. And those are only my past buyers and sellers.
So that's 17 to 25 listings that should come from that. What do you historically, yield from your 400 and some people?
Maybe one or two a year come from there. And they're referrals and they're not, but I don't call them. I don't call the people. I do direct mail. I'm bad. I don't call people.
Why? May I ask why?
I guess I've been lucky in the past and I didn't want to get any bigger. I only can do what I can do, and I don't want any more people working with me. I'm just real controlled.
Okay.
And what I'm finding, of course, I'm working in a neighborhood where people are.
Do you get upset when people in your database list without you?
Yeah. And it's always to an area that maybe they think it's too far out of my territory. They go someplace else. They don't list in my neighborhood, but they go by out of the neighborhood. And they probably think I just don't want to go there or I'm not an expert where they want to go.
Okay. I mean, if that upsets you, like just having a regular conversation is probably one of the most important things that we can do in this business, and not being a robot saying, "Hey, Vicky, do you want to sell your house?" It's like, "Hey, just wanted to check in, see how you're." Yeah. When you talk to somebody about anything but real estate, they're because they know what you do for a career, they're going to tell you about real estate opportunity. If you start talking about real estate, they're going to shut down. But if you start talking like a human being, a friend, right, somebody who cares, they might just say, "Hey, you know what? It's so ironic that you called, Vicky, because my neighbor 2 doors down is going to be moving to wherever, and they mentioned that." Right. But if you don't call them, like I kind of would feel somewhat abandoned, right? And I look at myself, I would say, my agent looks at me as a commission check, not as a person, because they only call me when they can make money, right? Because that's the transactional bit. That's the transactional business versus the relationship part of the business, right? In my opinion. Do we have a third volunteer on why the same result next year would not be acceptable?
I'll give it directly related to what you asked, Rob.
Okay.
So when you asked about database, so I have 22,000 people in my listing database, meaning people that are owners, and they could be farms, they could know me, they could be open house people that bought with us. And last year, 410 million in my 22,000 people sold their houses without us. That cannot happen again this year.
Can you repeat that number again, Glenn? I almost
410 million in sales, roughly $10 million in commission was in my database, and it was not my people that got to sale.
So Glenn has some advanced measurement techniques that I would call extremely painful, right?
I get the dashboard every day from Fellow, and it tells me how much I lost.
So Glenn, you want to share with the group what I'm doing tomorrow morning?
So we're sitting down and figuring out agentic AI and its applicability for brokerages, team leaders, and such. Yeah.
Is that at 10:30? No, 9. What time, Glenn?
6 a.m. We're meeting at my office, which means you're leaving at late 4:50, maybe.
Yeah, maybe without traffic, I leave at 5 o'clock because you know what? I am motivated at the conversation that Glenn and I had on how AI technology can help move the needle for all of you. And Glenn's busy, I'm busy, travel this, so we just made it happen. And I'm going to be anxious to report back next Friday at what we uncovered because it's moving at massive rates of change. So 410 million. So Glenn, that's close to 4x of what you closed, right?
Yeah. And roughly $10 million in gross commission because we didn't contact the database that they were in. We sent them emails thinking that was enough, right? Never happening again.
And I don't know if I don't see him. I don't know if Danielle is on the call. Tiffany, are you on the call? Danielle is on the call.
I am on the call. Yes, Rob.
So I was having a conversation with Danielle earlier this morning about we did have 20 some people at the buyer event, right?
Yes.
Is Tiffany Franco?
No, this is the other Tiffany. I thought you were
Other
talking about her.
Tiffany.
I thought
It's Danielle. I'm on, Rob. It's Danielle. I'm just driving. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the head scratchers this morning was, there's people on Danielle's team who had nobody show up at a buyer client appreciation event, nobody show up at a buyer event, and we're just like saying, how is that possible? And it's mind-numbing to me because all the effort that you put in, Danielle and Tiffany, your lender, to put on like a phenomenal event, and I think that people left there not disappointed. And I'm like, what can we do to move the needle so that next year is better than this year? Because if you took a job in corporate America, right, and you're in the same position for 10 years, you'd probably look at switching jobs, right?
Yep.
But if you're in this business, this is the fairest business on the planet, in my opinion. And I know some of you might take exception. That could be a whole nother session. But this is the fairest business. It doesn't discriminate man, woman, race, nothing, right? It's all based upon your ability to create an outcome, right? So if you can have conversations, if you can instill confidence, and if you can have efficiencies, that there is no cap on how much you can earn in this business, right? The only cap that we have is the effort or the belief that we have. And open houses, our database, our conversations, like I'm trying to solve for this at a very high level. And, I know that there are a lot of individuals, probably even on your team, Danielle, that can use a financial boost, right?
Absolutely.
Because living in New Jersey is not inexpensive. And it pains me that, there's such abundance, but there's not a commitment and a belief. Like, there's no way that you're going to stop Danielle from achieving whatever she wants. You can't stop Glenn or Bobby or Vicky. Like these people, you can't stop them. They're going to find a way to get to where they need to be. Okay. And I know that next year being the same is not acceptable to me. I know that next year Danielle is going to do better, but I want you to be able to pull your entire team up with you, Danielle. And I want to identify the things that are stopping us from hitting that next level, right? What's the reason? Maybe they don't know how to. Maybe it's the discipline. Maybe it's the comfort level of having conversations because, some of the people on your team that underperformed at turnout seemingly are very personable, conversational individuals, right? So
yes,
what's the reason? And it's not about, the amount of money that you and Glenn make as team leaders is insignificant to the amount of benefit that you give to them, right? And it's like, it hurts that we can't move the needle. I mean, I spent 4 days with Glenn's team in Salt Lake City, and getting to know them better. And every one of them has a story. Every one of them needs support. They need to be built up. But I'm just at a loss of words as to how we can connect if there are people and Bobby Gold, like you have people in your office that, they have the talent, right? And many of them, Bobby, are struggling. They need more economic juice, correct?
Correct.
And it's like so painful for me. How do we connect the fact that it's all within them to be able to change that, right? And it's only maybe doing a few different things. And I sat with Glenn at a seminar, and there was an individual on the Sisu platform, which is an advanced technology, what was his name? Zach Glenn?
Yes,
Right?
Zach from LA.
And I think his statistics were showing that every open house they get 1.4 extra transactions, right? And he knew his numbers like stone cold. And I know you were like a little bit unnerved by that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it was so intentional. It was so damn like that was a principle that he had, right? I don't know, how else would you describe that, Glenn?
Well, I think what's so impressive about him is he when he said we are the best at open houses. I hear people say that all the time. And here's a guy that has 20 signs at every open house, balloons at every open house, feathers at every open house. He has a client dashboard that's literally shows them how they work with buyers so that they get buyers from other agents who don't do it. It's not one thing, it's the entire thing he does. There's no shortcuts in it. And they manage it with the checklist. He's so impressive because all they do is train for it because he doesn't want to pay for Zillow leads and things like that. And it's not only the buy side too, right? His statistic was 1.2 listings per house that he puts up as well. And it was 2 buyers per. I had one agent that he said had 19 in the last 6 months from open houses. It's a process, right? He totally measures it.
Right. And he spends virtually zero on marketing.
Yep.
And I do know he's not all fluff because I see the production that he does. He's a nationally ranked team leader on Real Trend. So, and he's very authentic, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the thing that I took from him is like, he coaches his team members, but if they don't report the data, he's like meetings canceled. Like there's no negotiations, right? So, Bobby, if you set up a meeting with somebody, ask them to do something, they don't do it, you say, hey, the meeting's canceled, right? Because if they're not willing to do that, right? I mean, we're making the effort. How does that make you feel, Bobby?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. And I have good people in my office, but to get them to come in for a meeting one-on-one, it's like pulling teeth. It really is.
And Rob, after I gave that short speech about the Sisu platform, and I told everyone that one of my accountability groups, if you show up and didn't do what you were supposed to do yesterday, you're off permanently. A guy pulled me aside afterwards. He goes, wasn't that a little militaristic? I said, no, if I care about them, that's what you do. And if they don't reciprocate, they don't belong here. And I think that's an important piece. We all dance around the folks that are doing this. But if you have a true, genuine heart to heart and you say, hey, look, I'm going to pour into you everything I got. But if you don't show up, we just don't have a core values that's aligned. They're just a body, right? They're just a number in the cog then. But if they want to be party to it, they're going to show up, and they're going to show up in a big way and not want to let you down. And I think that's the piece that all too often we forget.
Yep. And then I want to save a little bit of time here to talk about kind of the second principle that I got from our nearly 4 days in. Robert, you can go, and then I'll save my nugget.
Okay, this is just something that we've kind of glossed over during the conversation today that I think is really important to put it out there by itself, and that is the importance of really knowing your numbers. I was always amazed when I was managing the offices how much the agents didn't really know what their numbers were, or what they were up against. Or that's one of the greatest motivational tools we have, is knowing our numbers and where we want to be and how we're going to get there. So I just want to make sure that we all know that. I mean, Glenn talks about it all the time. And, you just mentioned the person who's the number one open house person who could tell you, how many balloons he put out, within the last 15 minutes. I mean, this is important information. And I think that the more time we spend knowing our numbers, the more productive we're going to be.
Such a good point. And in fact, if I could just say one thing, Rob, that so supports that. When I talked to my AI for my platform and asked it, what does an agent on my team make for each conversation? So literally, when they make a call and have a conversation, what do they make? And that number came back at 207.
And Glenn, can you unmute yourself? I had to mute everybody. There was a bad echo.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So my AI came back and said, every conversation is worth $278 in the agent's pocket. You know how that changes an agent? If you say to them, you're going to, they all go, I can't hit the button on Mojo. I'm so nervous. I'm like, hit the button on Mojo. If you have a conversation, you made $278. And I promise you won't have any worries. It changes the conversation if you really understand your numbers. And that is just the best point on earth. In fact, Bob, I know you look at me like, he had his numbers under wraps. Until I started using it for things like that That's what changes people's minds. Not you didn't make your conversation count today, right? When you say $278 and if you do 10 of those today, you just made $3,000. Yeah, that's a different perspective altogether.
I don't remember who the speaker was, but remember the speaker is like, I take this mic and I release it. It always goes to the ground, right? That's how certain it is. And the statement you made is as certain as the pen never goes up to the ceiling. It always goes to the ground like gravity. And when you make calls, you know, Robert, your point, and Glenn, your point is that if you know your numbers, you know how much that is. So if you have 4 failed conversations, you could leave at 11 o'clock after making your call, say, I just made $1,000, because you know the next day gravity always pulls the pen down, right? And calls always equate to business, okay? And don't get sidetracked by, you know, I had 4 calls that went, conversations that went nowhere. It's always going to universally equate to future business, right? So if you disassociate yourself from the outcome, you stay true to the process, you will be successful over time. You know, like that's why, you know, people in this business are not concerned about, hey, you know, I'm going to invest, I'm going to buy investment property, I'm going to buy a new house. I know that my business, I'm not worried about interest, you know, hey, newsflash, interest rates are going up, right? Price of oil is $110 a barrel. If you're afraid of that, okay, get the hell out of the business. Get out, because you're one of those fringe players that are intimidated by what happens. The only thing that controls your outcome is you, right? Patrick, you know, rates are up probably what, 1/4, 3/8 of a point.
Yeah.
If you're concerned, like the market's the market, okay? People have needs. People don't need people who curl up in a ball when things get bad. They need people who are out there and saying, look at, you know, here's the reality of what's happening today. How can I help you? And the second part of it, which, you know, I'm looking at Sandy because she's a leader in this, talking about building wealth, not just making income, right? And what is your cadence, Sandy Hancock, of talking about wealth with your agents as opposed to just, you know, bringing in revenue?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Rob?
Hold on.
It's a big echo here.
All right, hang on. So this is for Sandy. What's the cadence of you talking with your agents about wealth, not just sales volume, and what does that mean to you?
That's why I do what I do, because I want my agents to retire wealthy. That's the whole thing. Everybody's got their why. That's my why.
And Sandy, what percentage of agents you think retire not where they deserve to be?
Well, I mean, it's not just agents. It's a lot of people in the world could retire at a different level than where they retire.
Well, let's just focus on, you know, agents overall. It's going to be massive, and then agents that are high performing RE/MAX agents. What percentage of them do you think retire with less wealth than they deserve?
You know, Rob, it's a high number, but they deserve it. I think everybody sort of gets the wealth they deserve, you know, because that's the system that they have, you know.
I mean,
I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just saying, if you don't have a system to retire wealthy, then you're probably not going to retire wealthy. And did you deserve it? I don't know. You never put a system in place.
Well, I mean, maybe if more agents had exposure to people like you who constantly talk about it, because most agencies, most boards, our infrastructure is not designed to talk about long-term wealth. It's designed to talk about production, right?
Right.
And you know, you were like, in my brief relationship with you, talking about what we're doing, you know, you talked about Delaware statutory trust wealth building events for your office, which it is more than almost any other broker does in terms of giving people an opportunity. At the event that Glenn had me come to, which was the spring retreat for, I'm going to guess that the average team there was doing $150 million in volume. That was the average team there. There were some doing 600 million in volume with 90 people.
Wow.
The speaker said that half of the agents that they've encountered are delinquent on their taxes.
Oh, wow.
Forget about wealth. Half.
Right.
And that's because they haven't been taught how to manage the way that you receive your earnings, right? Because And I think, don't you even encourage people to put money into a separate account, Sandy?
Absolutely. Your commission check is not your paycheck. You need a separate account. You need to pay yourself a paycheck each month. You need to have that allowance for taxes and for wealth building. Then when you see that one opportunity a year that you're probably going to see, then you need to have the funds there to do it, to buy it, to make it good for you and your family. And we've taught self-directed IRAs. We've taught flow of money. We've taught 1031 exchanges, Delaware statutory trust.
It looks like Glenn might not be able to speak, but I'll speak.
I'm good, Rob.
So you're part of a group called the Forum.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about the Forum, which I loved, is they require you to provide proof to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've been to events where you have this speaker and they put them on a pedestal, right? And then 6 months later, they're bankrupt.
Yeah,
right?
we call it receipts. You have to show your receipts, right? Yep.
Right. So you have to show evidence for your success. So the group the Forum group, Glenn, you're clearly an outlier for us in a very positive way, but I think you're probably average or maybe not even average in that group.
Well, for years in service, I think I'm above average, but for the overall numbers, these guys are killers, right? There's 1.5 billion sellers there in the group. So,
right. So there's something to strive for. And the other thing is spending 3.5 days there is, everybody has different challenges and, the game keeps moving, right? And you got to stay above it. And I think having a network of people that you can lean into is really powerful, right? To prevent you from going too long in a different direction or not paying attention to something. And to Robert Garver's point, knowing your numbers at scale is more critical than ever, and to Sandy's point, if you don't have a process for building wealth, it just doesn't happen, right? So all of this stuff kind of comes together, and it's just painful to watch when you see that there's so much potential there and, we're just not executing it at the optimal or a satisfactory level. And to me, if nothing changes for you financially or business wise, if that's okay for you, then you probably don't need to be on this call. But if it's not acceptable to you, then we need to figure out what changes that we need to implement. And there's somebody in our ecosystem here that has clues, support, accountability, love to help you get to that next level,
Hey, Rob, I'm going to make a quick offer to the group. I have a group coming in. I don't pay taxes, period. And I have a group coming in that's going to explain how that's done to my agents, because I really do believe that we're not going to be slinging real estate when we're 90. We're going to be sitting on a beach with umbrella drinks. So anyone on this call that wants to go, I put my email in. Please only email me because I'll have my admin put you on the invite for that. It's a virtual call for an hour, and these guys are awesome, just awesome.
But there's a caveat. You have to invest in what you do, right, Glenn?
Right.
So there was a speaker up there that was another aha moment for me. He's like, I made my investors so rich, and he's like, I found the property. I did the analysis. I did the rental comps. I rented the properties and I got a small percentage, and he became a multi-millionaire. And he's like, if you have all of these skills, you need to get into your business. You need to be buying real estate. And he gave a really simple example. By show of hands, how many people have been in the business more than 10 years, right? Almost everybody. So if you could turn the clock back 10 years ago and you can buy, in his example, if you bought 4 properties at $400,000 in a year, okay, and you can find investors to help you do it if you want. If there are good deals, a memorable quote was, "Good deals always find money." Right, Glenn? So if you find good deals, you can find the money for that. And then if you had 4 deals at 400,000, that's $1.6 million. In 10 years, you probably paid $1 million of that debt off and the property doubled. So now you have $6 million in equity. Would that not have changed your life? That's wealth. And it amazes me how few people actively seek to invest in the business that we're at. And it couldn't be any easier for us, right? We're watching the market and our first instinct is, oh, here's a good deal. Let me call Andy. and give him the deal instead of let me take this deal myself, right? Let me help myself with this. So I am, proud of all of you. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that really need this call, Glenn, are not here. I mean, if your entire team was here, we'd probably have, another 10 people on here, Glenn. I don't know how many of your team are here, but I know that they're all not here. And I know that you're busier than most of them and you're here.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to help people when they're not present. And I know that, for me, if nothing changes, I'm not happy. That means I'm not serving all of you. And, maybe, the influence of the people that we should lean into them to be part of this and think a little bit bigger. I mean, and what Glenn's saying about not paying taxes, it requires a strategy, and the strategy is investing in real estate. And we have a unique opportunity as full-time real estate professionals to have our rental income considered as ordinary income, and we can take excess of cost segregation depreciation in the first year. Correct, Glenn?
Yeah, and Rob, I'll just put it in real numbers, right? So I have a rental property I bought at $305,000. It's a 2-family. It's now worth $460,000. I've owned it for 7 years, and I just did a cost segmentation on it, and it's worth $92,000 of in-year tax avoidance, basically, or savings. So yeah, it's all by the law. There's no hidden thing. But just imagine if you didn't have to pay $92,000, what would you do with that money? What would you buy next?
And it was really interesting when they had the speaker on that. They played a little clip of the tax haters, and they had the debate where Hillary points her finger at Donald Trump and says, "Mr. Trump, you haven't paid taxes in 8 years." And he goes, "Hillary, that's because I'm smart." And he's like, "If you don't like it, change the laws, because your donors have pushed you to create a tax system that gives me the ability to do this." And I was like, you know what? That's truth to power, right? Because the system is there, and it's the tax code. And as an active real estate professional, you get to take accelerated depreciation to offset your income and legally not pay taxes. So somebody said that there was tax avoidance. All right. That's what this is. This is tax planning, tax avoidance, not tax evasion, not avoiding taxes, right? Because avoiding taxes, they get really ugly really quickly. But, if Glenn and I know something that can help everybody here, both to, that $92,000 that you saved in taxes in 1 year, Glenn, you can use that as a down payment to buy another property, right? And then when you buy that other property, you get another bunch of tax money through the accelerated depreciation. And that's because that's the way the tax code is written, folks. It's not any benefit for Glenn. Glenn is, to my knowledge, he didn't inherit hundreds of millions of dollars. He's like you and me. Okay. He's a hardworking person that's implementing a strategy, right? And Glenn, kudos to you for sharing that with the group, right? Because maybe sometimes I say things and it's like, oh, it's just Rob saying it. But here's somebody that's deploying and using this benefit. And eventually, you'll pay taxes when you stop working, you sell this stuff 20, 30 years down the road. But those taxes dollars that you'll be paying will be so depreciated, it'll be almost insignificant, right? Compared to today's dollars. So,
Yep.
So I would just, if Glenn's offering to give you exposure, I'm probably busier than most of you, and I found a way to spend 4 days out in Utah to try to get some information, try to help everybody. And I just want to encourage everybody to take advantage and lean into the collective knowledge and the collective intelligence of this group. And we are unstoppable. All right. So Dawn, welcome to your indoctrination here with our family, and we're all here to give you a lift and help you out.
Awesome.
I hope to have a really great topic next week after my 6 a.m. meeting with Glenn tomorrow on some advanced AI techniques. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.